Hello and welcome to another video. In this video, I want to talk through why Matthias Cunha is viewed as the perfect player for United's front three, even potentially more important than the striker at this phase, and just in terms of the quality and type of player he is for Ruben Amorim. Also, just will briefly touch on here, why things like Victor Osimhen aren't happening and what has sort of changed over the course of this period of time. With Matthias Cunha, I went through him as a list of options in the 10 in a video a bit earlier, just after the January window, and he showed up as easily the best goal scorer and probably currently the best player on that list, far and away by most every metric. At the time, I did not think it was potentially plausible that he would choose United. But United have always been very interested in him. The other factor is the release clause, and there was hopes that he might, that if Wolves were relegated, that would be down at 45 million. We weren't sure at that point in time that with the budget United have that they want to spend 60 on one player, especially when they're looking at striker options, and some of them are fairly expensive. But given the situation as it stands currently, United are extremely interested in him, and the feeling is that he will join. They've had multiple discussions with him. He wants to join. The fee is not expected to be a problem. They can afford it. They think it's a good value. They will very likely pay it in installments, that release clause, with slightly higher fee than what it is, similar to how we've done with all release clauses, Xerxes being an example last summer. They will be set to talk soon to go over contract details and then very likely execute this deal after our Europa League campaign is over. The view with him is that they really needed to add two goal scorers to the club, and with options like Victor Osimhen now coming completely off the table, I think that is very connected. As I shared before, they've made contact with Victor Osimhen, and just yesterday, David Ornstein basically confirmed for us, unfortunately, the new news, which is that Osimhen is now off the table. He has done a little bit of an update today, which does confirm and explain the reasoning and the problem, which he says was mostly due to wages, that the wages he's asking for were just too high. Now, that was always the problem with Osimhen, is that we needed a compromise on something like wages to consider it. We looked into it. He confirms that it's been looked into, but that's the reason the clubs have decided against it, including United. So what that means is, of course, that rather than, we're probably not looking to spend 60, 70, 80 million on a striker, and instead we feel the next best option, even though it's not a number 9, is to spend 60 million on Matthias Cunha. Now, if you compare that to spending 70, 80 million on Šeško or on Ekitike or somebody like that, then it starts to make sense why we would potentially go to Cunha first and look at Delap as an option that we can definitely get on top of that, because Cunha is the best goal scorer in terms of value for money among the options, including those striker names. So hence Matthias Cunha and how he fits so perfectly into the system. Ruben Amorim loves him. He has this drive, this hunger, this passion, this thing that keeps reminding me of Bruno when I've been watching him recently, that he wants to be the guy and he wants to take responsibility for the team. And I had concerns over attitude, things like that. But the more I've watched him, the more I've seen, I feel a lot better about it. And I'm starting to think it's a bit more of the types of passion that you want, that you just need to direct and control. And it's a type of person that will handle the step up to a big club. Similar to how Bruno did. The shirt won't weigh heavy on him. He'll be able to deal with it. So I think it's a perfect transfer for so many reasons. But let's look at some of the details as to why he will fly at United. Because not only do I think he's a good player, but I think he's about to absolutely fucking explode at United, and I will show you why. Looking at Amorim's 10s, these are the 10s, Trincao and Gonçalves from Sporting. They are narrow 10s preferred, not touchline wingers, dropping into the midfield in order to help in the build-up and the possession. Creative in the final third, chance creation and goals, strong on the ball. One is usually a little bit more direct, and one is usually a bit more of a creator in his team, but both have to be just fairly well-rounded and involved. And you can see this really clearly. They are central kind of half space players that want to overload this area here, giving space for that wing back to kind of run by. And obviously they can go from out to in, and there's variations in their runs, but it's a big difference, this kind of heat map versus when you look at traditional wingers. If we look at Cunha, Ahmad, Bruno as to their heat maps, you can see exactly how that is. Bruno has been starting as a right 10 recently, and you can see very, very similar in that respect if we go back to the Trincao heat map. Basically identical when you look at it. Ahmad, a little more traditional in his sense of being a right winger, which is why I think he's liked to deploy him as a right wing back at times, because rather than going into these central spaces as much, he's usually coming from out to in deep. And so I do expect that based on how we've been playing Bruno recently, it seems more likely that we'd be playing Bruno as a right 10 and Ahmad as a right wing back. Again, to add attackers, we're not playing so many defensive options, but we'll see when it comes in into summer. Bruno being used as that right 10 regularly in recent times, balanced with Cunha's left side fluid central runs. You can see how he's kind of gets around all over the place within there. This makes a perfect pairing for the 10s. The positioning of Bruno and the positioning of Cunha, I think, is absolutely perfect. Overloading the half spaces on either side, with the 10s able to run direct at goal, the wingbacks able to go around side him, rather than overloading the wide areas where his wingbacks play. And that's one of the reasons oftentimes our wingbacks are just pushed too deep. If we take a look here for what it's worth, the left is Araujo, Maxi Araujo, who was used at left wing back by Ruben Amorim at Sporting, and the right is Garnacho. So you can see this is an identical heat map, actually, aside from the fact that Garnacho is playing on both sides a bit. This is a wing-backs heat map, and we can see the same thing, obviously. Go back to Ahmad's, you'll see similar, even though he's been deployed in two different positions. This is not how he wants his 10s to play. It's more how he views the wingbacks. And because the problem, of course, in this case is that they sit kind of over top of the wingback and take the space where the wingback would run, forcing the wingback to invert, which ends up confusing things. You can see the difference here between Cunha's. A lot of the runs from Garnacho are coming in like this, same as you'd want a wingback, whereas with Cunha, it's coming in like that into the central areas. So he's a much more natural fit, again, going back to how his 10s played. They're not making the runs in here. They're making the runs right through the middle into the top of the box in those central areas. So a natural fit there, a better match for what he will want come next season. And I think strongly indicates the push towards Ahmad being in the wingback role as well. So how good is Cunha really? This is comparing him, Ahmad, and Garnacho, who all show up quite well. All carry the ball a lot. All dribbled. This is a volume dribble, rather than a success dribble. Garnacho's unfortunately very low on the success rate, but all dribble with the ball a lot. That's an important trait of the 10s, picking up the ball, carrying it. On that side of it, Garnacho is certainly more feasible, but you can see the similarities in what he wants. Ahmad a bit more creative, but Cunha, an unbelievable goal scorer, just next level goal scorer. And that is essentially the most important aspect of it. Though Cunha is a bit more creative than it looks, his key passes are actually crazy. When I was looking at his stats, he suffers from our players not finishing chances because his key passes are great, but the assists are low. And we'll see that in one of the stats I show later. His creativity is actually unbelievable. He's near the top of the league in his key passes and chances created. He's much more efficient with his dribbles, which you can't see on here. He's also very intelligent in his pressing, and as a defender off the ball, makes a lot of good interceptions, meaning just picking the right space to get in front of the ball, cut off the passing lanes, and things like that. Revisiting these charts from earlier, I wanted to do that. Obviously, we looked at this shooting volume and efficiency, and we can see here Cunha was way, way on top. High shots per game, incredible finisher in that respect. So easily the best finisher of all the players we've been looking at over the course of the summer, and better than what we have here. Ahmad, a good finisher, not as high volume, but Cunha is on another planet as a shooter. Chance creation and duel winning. This one, around here is obviously, this is the take on percentage. So this is the success of dribbles. So Cunha is right in there. He's about on average for success of dribbles. His key passes per 90 is pretty good. Fairly good, actually, quite up there when you look at it overall. Right alongside Mbumo in that respect. This one I actually reversed because initially it showed high carries to the right, which kind of made it look like it was better if you carried a lot but weren't that efficient. 50 carries for 130 is not as efficient as 15 carries for 130. So it's better left to right. So like Lee Kang-in carries the ball a ton. That doesn't make him a bad carrier, but he doesn't really progress the ball that much with the amount of times he carries it. Whereas as you go to the right, you're getting same distances with fewer carries. So Garnacho pretty good at progressing the ball via carry. Cunha a little bit better than that, even though he carries the ball a little less around the same distance. So he's a good carrier. Now is the new one that I made, because there's been this narrative, and there's been this narrative that I think is totally wrong, which is that we don't get the ball to the forwards. This is totally false. This is completely untrue, and I'm going to show you based on this. On the left is the attacking penalty area touches versus production. So this is the attacking penalty area touches per 90. This is your goals, assists, and key passes per 90. Okay, chances created per 90. Garnacho gets double the touches of an Mbumo and Cunha, but they are producing 82% more with half the touches. You understand that? Like, it is actually unbelievable the amount that they are producing. And you can see Ahmad is up here. When he was playing, got a bit more touches and produced really well with it. So it's not a matter of not getting touches in the attacking areas for the amount of touches. And I mean, this is the craziest part about this. Okay, with a bit over 4 touches in the attacking area per 90, Cunha is doing about 2.4. That means more than half the time he touches the ball in the attacking area, he's getting a goal, assist, or creating a chance. That is something unbelievable. And Mbumo doing the same, just absolutely excellent attackers. And Ahmad is slightly under half the time, whereas Garnacho, it's more like 1 in 5 times that he touches the ball in the attacking area does he make something happen. We look at progressive passes received versus production. Cunha is receiving passes at, again, less than half the rate of Garnacho and significantly less than even Ahmad and Mbumo, and the same number here, this 2.4. So point being, Cunha is doing a lot more with a lot less than we would expect from our forwards. Okay, so it's not a matter of we don't get the ball to the 10s and nobody's going to succeed because our 10s don't touch the ball. That is false. Statistically, they get the ball in progressive passes more, double players like Cunha, and touches in the attacking box, double players like Cunha. Now, if you compare the strikers, obviously it's different, but striker to striker is a little bit different. Even then, Højlund is about right here, and his production is like on the floor. It's probably below the chart, unfortunately. It's like way down here. So Højlund would be way down here. Even our striker touches the ball in the attacking area more than Cunha. So with all that no service, and that's not counting all the chances not getting to. So I think it's been a bit of a false narrative, the idea that Matheus Cunha, wouldn't do it at United, or that these players would come to United and then there'd be no service and no touches, no chances, and they wouldn't get them. They'd arguably get significantly more chances. If we do some quick math here, if Cunha had the same number of touches in the attacking pen as Garnacho, that would represent an 82% increase, which would look like 26 goals, 7 assists, and 84 key passes this season. That would put him above Bruno and the top in the whole league for chances created. That's unbelievable. Now, it's obviously not that simple and not that direct and linear, but the point being, it's not about not getting enough touches in the attacking areas. It's about doing more. Now, are our touches against more defenders rather than a little more on the break? Probably. So you wouldn't expect the output to increase that much. But the point is, we do get the ball to the forward more than all these other teams. So we can dispense with that idea. Cunha really is, and this is why I see Cunha is ready to explode when he's at a club where he sees the ball more. If you're getting him to double the touches per game, if you're getting him double the touches in the attacking area per game, if you're passing him, in progressive passes twice as much, he's only going to increase his output. It is not going to go down because it's already in the Premier League. That's the other difference. It's not in the Bundesliga where the spaces and the games are totally different. It's the same. So that's why I'm so excited about this transfer now and think that it's going to be absolutely stunning. Is just looking at his stats. And watching him play, obviously, in recent times, you can see that he is on the verge of just busting through the roof on everything. And that's why I've been seeing more and more like Bruno. You get him to a team like ours, and he's ready to just go up a complete other level. There is no doubt about that. And so that's really, really interesting to me. That's very exciting to me. I'm quite happy with it. And we can do it. Now, just a final kind of point on this, that you saw here. This is actually from my PR versus PSR video from back in February. I said that without Europe, based on the cuts we were making, the savings and things like that, we could afford about 90 to 100 million in fees and 300K a week in wages before sales and without Europe, before additional sales. We're still kind of counting that Sancho will leave, but not really worried too much about that at the moment. There will be a way that he can, and there's still a decent chance Chelsea take him. But that is spot on. That's exactly what United can afford, about 90 million, hence Cunha and Delap. And why, of course, moving away from Victor Osimhen when he would take up more than all of their budget, unfortunately, if he's not willing to take a significant pay cut. And that's why he's not on the table, because this is what they have the financials for. They want to nail that down so that, regardless of what comes next, that means that Champions League or sales allow them to take the next step. Keep building the squad, keep adding players, add more, finish the rebuild if they have more money. One of the factors in that I do want to mention in this video that I've said many, many times is that Alejandro Garnacho has a decent chance to leave the club. David Ornstein also confirming that today, that there's a highly possible that he leaves the club. If an offer comes in, Napoli and Chelsea very interested. United would be willing to make a sale there in the 40 to 50 million range. That would allow them to reinvest an enormous amount and probably fund half a summer. In addition, because we can afford this without that, that's why we are expecting to get Cunha done so quickly. So that extra 40 million profit, realistically, United could, take that and go spend 80, 90 million. I'd be very interested to see a player like Mastantuono that we're watching, that we've been looking at, and now we have some decent links to, that becomes possible in August if we make something like that happen, as well as spending on the midfield. So that's one to watch, but we have the money for Cunha. He's the perfect fit, and I think he is going to absolutely tear it up at United, similar to Bruno Fernandes, and take us to the next level. Similar age, similar mindset, similar player. There's just too many things that make it work. And too many reasons why I believe, he will just explode and be an absolute game changer. And we need more of those at United. We need more of these types of players. So that's all for this video. Wanted to keep it brief and short and talk about Cunha in particular. So I hope it's interesting. Let me know your thoughts below. The more I think about it, the more I get so excited for this one, and that we're looking like we're going to have it secured fairly early, well before the window. So we know come summer, he's there the whole time with Ruben Amorim, learning, playing, and finding his place in the team. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a good one, everybody. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next one.